All right, welcome. Today's topic for this afternoon is rooftop units. Nate Lynch is with us. He's going to be going through the Carrier lineup of rooftop units, and then he's going to take a little bit of time to discuss each of some of the pretty cool things that we do that are unique, that save energy or help dehumidify better, and those sorts of things. Oh, there you go. You got the screen there. Perfect, Nate. So I'm going to turn it over to Nate and let him run with it.
Thanks, Ryan. Again, my name is Nathan Lynch. Feel free to type in any questions as we go. Feel free to just submit those, and then Ryan will interject as needed with any questions. So, again, my name is Nathan Lynch. We're going to focus on mainly today here is our what we would consider our unitary or our light commercial rooftops. We're going to talk briefly and just kind of make sure you understand some of the larger things that are available, but the main focus here is going to be on our light commercial rooftops and some of our light commercial products. Now, most of the features that we're going to talk about, like Humidi-Mizer and SAV and things along those lines that we're going to talk about a little bit later, are available on our larger products as well. So keep them in mind for your larger jobs as well. But we're going to mainly focus here on our light commercial. Now, Carrier has a kind of a three-tiered, a good, better, best approach, what they call the Weather Maker, Weather Master, and Weather Expert product. Now, the Weather Maker is going to be your 3 to 30 tons. I know that says 27.5, but it is 30, between the FC and the TC unit. Then we've got our mid-tier, which is the GC and HC. Again, we're going to talk more in depth about these products as we go. And then our Weather Expert goes up to 23 tons in the LC and the JC product. Now, a lot of these units are going to look very familiar if you've been in the industry for a while. It's actually the same curve that Carrier has been using back to 1989 on most of our units. That's not to say all units, but there's a pretty good chance if you're replacing a Carrier unit with another Carrier that you do not need an adapter. I know some of our competitors have tried to copy that design, and there's a reason. When Carrier came up with this design, it was the most economical and from an engineering standpoint, the best airflow design for the cavity that they could come up with. And so that's why it's still what they use to this day. And it is a field convertible unit. So you can see in that bottom left, up to 15 tons, we can stock one unit that you would be able to pick up. It can be used both horizontally and vertically. It's just a difference in the economizer. And you can see there the sizes that the curves are used the same between the different product lines that we have. And in some cases, like I mentioned, up to 15 tons, it's a good chance that the Carrier product, is a direct replacement. There's also a decent chance that at 15 tons and above, that if you're replacing a Train unit, a Train Voyager, a YHC, THC, one of those products, you've got a pretty good chance that you might be able to actually have a direct replacement with a Carrier unit at 20 tons, 25 tons in these sizes that would fit directly onto an existing Train unit even. So again, these are all things that if you're replacing a unit, be it Carrier, Train, or anybody else, work with your TEC salesperson and they would be able to tell you if you need a curb adapter at all. A new feature in our units right now, just up to from 3 to 6 tons, is our new EcoBlue fan technology. Now, we have entire presentations about this that Ryan has done and continues to do about this product, going more in depth. I'm going to kind of hit some high points. If you want more specific information on this or any of the other items that we discussed, please work with your salesperson and we can do entire presentations more in depth into that. But the EcoBlue is our new fan design from 3 to 6 tons currently. This is, as you can see, a direct drive fan system. So no belts, no pulleys. We'll go through the setup a little bit, but some of the features that you get from it. It is a slower ramp up on the multi-speed units. There's no VFD. It's all done through an ECM, and it's a lot quieter. So part of the design is not just the fan on the indoor fan, but it's also a revised control board, a different condenser, a little bit change in the condenser tube, and also one of the nicest features is at 6 tons, we now have the ability to have a compliant unit at 6 tons that fits on the smaller curb and is 2-stage. I don't know how many people have ever had a problem with a single stage compressor, especially at 6 tons and above, But for a long time at 6 tons, in order to fit on that smaller curb and be a direct replacement, like we've talked about earlier, you had to either be providing a unit with a single compressor on-off. Now at 6 tons in our base unit, to fit on that smaller curb, we are at 2-stage. One of the other advantages is on the high efficiency unit, so the GC unit that we talked about, that goes from 3 to 5 tons. The GC unit is available with a 2-stage compressor design. So from 3 to 5 tons, you would get 2 stages of cooling and SAV, which we'll talk about SAV a little bit more in depth. But you would have the ability to provide a product with SAV and 2-stage compressor operation with the GC unit at 3 tons. One of the other advantages to the GC is it's not just a 2-stage compressor and a 2-stage fan, it is also a 2-stage condenser fan on that GC, which helps with sound and also efficiency on the GC product. So that's a little bit on that. It is a new condenser fan just in general though, even on the base tier unit. It is a non-corrosive, not non-corrosive, it is a composite fan system. And if you've seen it, the design is quite different to try and limit the sound and be a little bit more efficient on the fan side as well on the condenser. On the indoor fan, this is kind of a broken out exploded view of that fan itself. You can see everything from the stator to the rotor and then the blue ring casing, which is where we get the Eco Blue name. If you've been to any of Ryan's classes or seen it in person, you've probably seen the ability and how easy it is to get into that and maybe if needed, replace a component, but it is a very easy design to take apart if you needed to. Hopefully you don't have to, but if you did, it is designed to be pretty easily disassembled. Now, the main selling feature to this is, again, no belts, no pulleys. So when you're starting the machine up, there should be no reason you have to take that side panel off. And typically that's the first, assuming that it's properly balanced when a unit gets placed on the roof, there's no reason to have to remove that side panel. There's no belts to adjust, no pulleys, anything else. All of it is done through the control panel, which we'll show in the next slide. There should be, again, no reason to open that up. But you can see kind of how it's laid out there with the new control board and then how that fan is sitting there on the unit. And again, this is a picture from our training lab where we do classes for this exact product. So this is what the control box, kind of the old board and the new board next to each other. One of the major features that's added is this switch and a dial. Right, and that's how you balance the machine. It's balanced by this chart on the right, on the middle of the page here. It's a chart showing what your design CFM and static is. So with a voltmeter plugged in, this is a shortened version of a training class that is needed for this. But what this shows is how this is set up. So with that volt DC meter, you look and see where you need to be. Again, you do need to know what the design static is on this. So we do need to know if it's an inch, a half inch, 3/4 of an inch. We do need to know what that actual static is and what the CFM is. But with that information, the setup of the fan is plugging your voltmeter in and turning the dial until it matches what is shown on this chart. Now, that's a shortened version of the startup process. I would highly suggest if anybody on the call is either on the service side or has people from the service side in your office, that they try and attend this class that we're doing tomorrow, actually, tomorrow and Friday. We're going to do it in 2 sessions to break it up, but this is a web version of a training class that we do in our Melrose Park facility with the machine. If you have any techs, I highly recommend that they be a part of it. Because this is a good class to learn how to handle this new fan system. Once you know how to do it, startup and setup should be much easier. But again, there are some things that Doug goes over in this class. One of the changes in the code, mainly from the 2015 code and now kind of clarified more in the 2018 energy code, is the requirement, to have the ability to vary fan speed. So what the current 2018 code says is from any unit 6 tons and larger, you have to have the ability to vary fan speed. So what that means is on our FC unit, as we talked about earlier, we are adjusting it without the need of a VFD, with just that 2-speed ECM fan. From 7.5 tons and above, we are using a pre-programmed VFD that is coming pre-wired, pre-installed, and pre-programmed inside of your unit. You should still be able to use a standard programmable thermostat. All of that should be very similar to any other startup. What this VFD does is it runs as it shows here in the middle. If you are at 100%, if you are in both stages of cooling are running, because you're at 7.5 tons, so you have 2 stages. If you are at full cooling, your fan is running at 100% fan speed. If you're in heating mode, it is also running at 100%. However, if you're in first stage cooling or you're in ventilation mode, so what that means is the space temperature is satisfied, but my thermostat shows it as being occupied, I still have to bring in the code required outside air, so my unit is still operating. So that in that case, your fan will be operating at 2/3 fan speed. Now, one of the features of this that you have to have is you have to have an adaptive integrated economizer. What that means is the economizer has to have the proper controls required so that as your fan speed varies, the quantity, the number of CFM that's required for outside air hasn't changed. Just because you're in ventilation mode, you still have a certain CFM of outside air that's required, be that whatever the code requires based on the number of people or whatever it is. So as your fan speed slows down, your economizer has to correspondingly respond and open a little bit more so that it can continue to bring in that amount of outside air. So that is why you need to make sure that you have a communicating economizer so that it knows that it needs to react as well. But again, this is standard, code required, 6 tons and up. Constant air volume means the fan is either on or off. That's what we do at the smaller tonnages. VAV would be a full multi-zone variable air volume system, which we'll talk about a little bit more later briefly. I talked briefly about the economizer, having a communicating economizer. That's part of the code requirement. Another feature is the leakage rate and what type of economizer is required. And I apologize, that's kind of an eye chart, it might be hard to see, but the purpose for it is to show you that depending on where you are, the code requires, the code is pretty different. And one of the things that I see a lot in this market is people saying that my economizer is Title 24 compliant. And I want to briefly talk about it because it's kind of my soapbox lately, is Title 24. Title 24 has absolutely nothing to do with Illinois. Title 24 is a California code. Title 24 allows a 10 CFM per square foot leakage rate. That's fine in their climate zone. Different climate zones have different code required leakage rates that are allowable. Our leakage rate is 4 CFM per square foot. California in Title 24 allows up to 10. So if someone tells you that their economizer is compliant because it's Title 24 compliant, it's AMCA 500 tested, that means absolutely nothing to Illinois. That's great for California, but we're in Illinois. One of the ways you can check, at least with ours, whether it's a compliance or not, one of the changes that was made is using moving the gears outside of the airstream to help limit any leakage rate. So that's kind of one quick way that you can know that you're getting a compliant economizer from TEC. It's kind of a little sneak peek at our new product that'll be rolling out later this year at 3, 4, and 5 tons. This will be to supplement that Weather Master product, the LT unit. This is a truly variable speed product. Preliminarily available at 3, 4, and 5 tons, but everything is going to be variable speed. Variable speed compressor, variable speed indoor fan, variable speed outdoor fan. Up to 20 plus SEER at these tonnages. It's going to come standard with our system view, which is kind of a built up, better version of the Comfort Link that maybe some people are familiar with, but it's more of an applied, more of a robust control system that's going to come factory installed on all of these units. It's going to be standard with CCN or BACnet. You can connect either a space temperature sensor or a thermostat. No gauges. All the setup and startup is going to be done right through that little LCD screen. So it's going to be more of a robust controller that's going to come factory installed, and it's just kind of the next generation of things. I know we all love electromechanical, just connecting a thermostat, but unfortunately, with the way that that everything is going, with more and more controls on everything, we got to have a front end. So you're still going to be able to use a standard thermostat, but this is going to be on our high tier unit. This is going to be standard on there. One of the advantages to it, though, is it's going to come with these factory mounted sensors right out of the bat. So I know sometimes people like to hang a construction filter, for example, not construction filter, a construction thermostat in the return air duct because they want to use it for temp. No, you don't need to do that anymore. I can run this in just based on return air temperature now. If you want to do that for a while during setup, all of these sensors and all of these items are going to be coming factory installed in the product. We talked briefly about constant air volume, staged air volume, and then I mentioned VAV. On our small tonnage product, we do have a VAV product all the way down to 6 tons. So that is a true multi-zone VAV product, variable air volume, discharge air control. One of the features of the code is that you have to have 3 stages of compressor operation. Hot gas bypass is not a stage of operation if you are doing any zoning at all, so be it VVT or VAV. So if you are doing a VAV system at 6 tons, you have to use a product with at least 3 stages of cooling, which this LC unit does have. So those are some of the features of it. It is a 3-stage cooling, the high efficiency outdoor fan motors. It is a full face active. That is another difference of this product. Some of our other products are face split. This is a fully intertwined coil. So you have the full face of the coil active regardless of how many stages of compressor are in operation. Another product that we have available would be our Energy X product. It is a factory mounted, factory fully assembled ERV product. So this is in our mid-tier, the HC style product that is available with a factory mounted, factory installed ERV. Again, the reason for that being it might be a possibility is code requires ERVs based on your amount of outside air, and it's getting more and more stringent. So we can provide you, Carrier TEC can provide you loose ERVs as well, but we also offer a factory mounted and installed ERV. The reason that might make sense as opposed to another solution, it's a single lift, single power connection. Again, everything's all factory mounted and installed. So this is kind of how the unit looks on the inside, just to give you an idea. Return air comes up through the bottom and then is split based on the exhaust air, the speed of that exhaust air fan, how much it pulls through the wheel, and then your outside air goes again through the other direction. And then after it goes through the wheel, pre-treated, mixes with the remnants of however much return air didn't get exhausted, and then goes through your normal system. Now, this is again a standard feature. We have the ability to put a bypass on there, so you can still run an economizer mode, meaning you're bypassing the wheel. If you have the ability to run free cooling, as well as ECM fans, the CO2 sensors, different features that can be added to this because of the amount of outside air. There's the fan, a good view of it with the factory mounted Carrier controller and some of the features that are built into that ComfortLink controller. Sizing of rooftops is always something that I'm sure a lot of people struggle with. You know, you want to be able to hit your sensible and your latent load, and you're trying to make sure that you're not oversizing it dramatically. And dehumidification can become quite an issue, not just on your full load, but sometimes in your intermediate spots because of cycling of units, right? You might have a space has a huge variation in load. And so maybe the max load is 10 tons, but it operates at 3, 4, 5 tons from time to time. So you're banging that compressor on and off. How do you handle that dehumidification load? There's lots of different ways to do it. Sometimes you just oversize the unit maybe to match whether it be your sensible or your latent load. That's not always, that might be the cheapest way, but it's really not going to control your dehumidification. Sometimes people will think to use hot gas bypass. All that is better load control, but it doesn't add any latent capability. Hot gas reheat's a good option, but that's just 2 stages. That's just cooling or hot gas reheat. Or there's other custom systems, desiccant systems, other dedicated dehumidification products, or the Humidi-Mizer. So the Humidi-Mizer is what we're going to talk about a little bit more here. If you think about the way I like to describe the Humidi-Mizer, if you think about a humidistat, a temperature sensor on the wall that senses both temperature and humidity. All right, so go with that in mind. So what happens when the space calls for cooling, right? It's going to be in normal mode. I got a call for cooling. I'm going to just turn on my compressors and run like I typically would, trying to get 55 off the coil and cool the space just like I normally would. Now, over on the right side, you're seeing kind of what the thermostat is calling for. That it was calling for temperature only. Now it's saying the temperature is fine, but I have the call for dehumidification. So I need reheat mode. That would be your hot gas reheat. Calls for dehumidification, but no cooling. So I'm not overcooling the space, right? I don't want to just blast a normal unit if it had a call for dehumidification, but no call for cooling. That's a call for cooling, so it's just going to try and overcool the space. Hot gas reheat allows you to not overcool the space and just provide dehumidified neutral air, right? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I've just got a call for dehumidification. Now, what happens if I have a call for both temperature and dehumidification? A normal unit, even a unit with hot gas reheat, all it's going to do is run in cooling mode. That's what it's going to do. It's going to default to that. That's where you get that clammy feeling, right? It's going to deliver fully saturated, cool air. That's where the Humidi-Mizer really differentiates itself is in the subcooling mode. So again, I have a call for both for cooling and humidity control. So what this does is adds additional latent capacity. Supply here it is going to be reheated a little bit, but you're going to be subcooling it farther and then reheating a little bit. So you're still providing cooling and dehumidified air. One of the other advantages, once you get to our 2-stage, 2-circuit product, 7.5 tons and up, I could actually be running one circuit in different modes. Maybe I'm running one circuit in dehumidification and the other circuit in cooling, or dehumidification and subcooling, whatever it might be. I have the ability to run the different units in different modes depending on how much of what I need in the space. We kind of call it a 4th mode, you might say. So again, this is available in pretty much all of our products, from 3 tons all the way up to 150 tons. All the way in our applied product, it is available. So what is Humidi-Mizer? What's going on? What we're doing is we're adding these 2 solenoid valves. All right, we're adding a discharge line and a liquid line solenoid valve. So in a normal cooling mode, I'm running just like it's shown here. My discharge hot gas line is closed and the liquid line solenoid is open. So I'm running in a normal refrigeration process. Now in hot gas reheat mode, I am bypassing that condenser. I'm opening that up and then going around it, and I'm running that hot gas through my Humidi-Mizer coil to reheat it. I've then closed that, so after it goes through Humidi-Mizer coil, it comes through and then goes through my TXV. So that is how I'm running my hot gas reheat mode. Here's how I run my subcooling mode. I run it through the condenser still, but then I subcool it by going through the Humidi-Mizer coil and then through my evaporator coil. So this is how we run our subcooling mode. All right, have we had any questions? We still doing good?
We are doing good. I've answered several of the questions, just kind of their real quick, easy ones. But there was one that's come up a few times, which was specifically, how do we register for that technician class that Doug's doing this week? So just go to our website, tecmungo.com, and click on training, and then click on online webinars, and you'll see all the webinars that we've previously recorded, as well as the ones that are coming up. And you can look at the one for tomorrow's date and click on that one. I think it's called Vane Axial RTU Setup.
Or reach out to your TECTM, and I'm sure they can help you show it to you, or maybe they've sent it out to you. So, sorry, I was off. I just wanted to get a drink of water. It was the other reason I asked you that.
No worries.
All right. A lot of these different models that we talked about, we've talked about these different tiers of products. We talked about SAV, which is now standard, but code required. But one of the other available features that we have, if you talk to your TEC salesperson, is the ability to run very quick operating cost differences. So if you're quoting a job with a 5-ton rooftop, and you say, what's my potential energy savings to that 2-speed GC or maybe the LC unit? What kind of energy savings could I expect by adding these additional features? It's something that we can do very easily through this Commercial Invest software. So with some training, we could even, some cases it's available publicly, but for the most part we run it ourselves, and we could sit down and run a quick operating cost to show you why, something that you can use for your customer to show a payback as to why they should either buy this more efficient product, but it also then helps to differentiate you. Rooftops have unfortunately become such a commodity. Anything we can do to sell up and show that we're adding an additional benefit, an additional feature, can be very helpful. So that's something that any of your salespeople would be able to help you run and be able to show you the payback and some of the additional features. So feel free to reach out to myself or anybody at TEC, and they can help you do that. They can also show you maybe the payback or benefit to running a CO2 sensor, right? Some of these other features that we add into rooftops can all be done through here to show the payback of those energy saving options.
Hey, Nate.
Yeah.
We do have a rooftop replacement class on April 8th. Now, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have to reschedule that the way things are going. But we have that class scheduled right now on April 8th. It's a full day class on all kinds of things related to replacing rooftops. And we do, into the class, we integrate that software. So every time we talk about a different technology, we use the software to show how it's going to save or not save energy. And everybody that comes to that class, we load the software on our laptop and do it with them. So if people are interested, you can sign up for that class, knowing full well I'm probably going to reschedule it. But at least when I reschedule it, you'll have the opportunity to stay in the class on the new date or just cancel out, either way.
What was I going to say? Oh, it does use HAP. I mean, it is a very quick and easy tool for any of us to use or anybody to use. But it does it uses HAP weather data, and it kind of has some pre-canned load profiles for different, be it an office or a religious facility, whatever it might be. So it is a very quick and easy tool to use to do that, to do those calculations and show people. But it has a great backbone of very, very in-depth HAP data. So we're going to talk briefly about available rebates. There are some standard rebates available from ComEd. $10 a ton for every little bit you are above the code required, or DCV. Those are a little bit more cumbersome to get, and honestly, at $10 a ton, you're not going to do much for 30 bucks, right? If it's a 3-ton rooftop. However, there is a small business energy rebate that is available. Now, there are a couple requirements. You have to be under 100 kilowatt demand. So that comes out that usually if it's a building under about 30 tons. Now, if it's a strip center with individual buildings, they might each be eligible for it. But it qualifies for up to $700 a ton. That's a lot of money. That can pay the difference of upscaling from a standard efficiency to the high efficiency unit that would qualify. A lot of times that's more than the upcharge to go to that higher tier unit. So reach out to your salesperson. They can talk to you about which units are eligible and some of the eligibility requirements. One of the main eligibility requirements besides this 100 kW demand charge or demand size is that it has to be a non-emergency replacement. So if it's a 10-ton unit that's down, this would not qualify. The goal of this is to get people to change things earlier. So if you have a service account with a bunch of rooftops at a site that are 25 years old, that you've replaced the compressor 5 times on it, this would be a great opportunity to show your client you're bringing them this opportunity that can greatly affect the cost of that project and the time to do it when they're getting this much money. So get with your TECTM and they can talk to you about the requirements. They can refer you to the people that help facilitate it for us and make sure that you qualify.
Nate, a couple people have also typed in to point out that those units that are those higher efficiency ones are typically not units that we would stock anyway. Those are ones that we would order.
Correct.
So the fact that you can't do it on emergency replacement probably meshes well with that, but there is a little bit of lead time associated with that, so you got to plan.
Yeah. Again, that's why, you know, it's not stuff that we stock, and we don't stock them because it can't be, it has to be a scheduled replacement, right? It can't be an emergency. So part of it is you get a little bit more by having a factory installed CO2 sensor and having that tier 2 product. So we just order it typically with the factory installed CO2 sensor, factory installed economizer, stuff like that. So yeah, we do not stock the equipment that would qualify, but could certainly get it for you relatively quickly. But again, it's all scheduled repairs. It can't be an emergency. Just going to touch briefly on some of our other light commercial products here very quickly. Make sure you know they're there. This would be our split systems from commercially 6 to about approximately 30 tons. That would be the largest that small air handler goes to. Factory installed TXVs. Some of the features of our small tonnage condensing units that we do stock locally. This is our applied rooftop line. Again, most of the features that we discussed earlier are available in this, like Humidi-Mizer and some other ones. These are our different products. The A series goes from 20 to 60 tons. The P series would go from 30 to 100, and then we go from 75 to 150 tons on our N series unit. So lots of configurability on those units. Just feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions or have a job that something like this might apply to. Talk a little bit very briefly on just some accessory items that typically go with our rooftops, so you're aware of them. These are the thermostats that we typically would be providing with our rooftops. The Venstar is the manufacturer. They name brand for some other people, so we buy them directly from Venstar. They do have a compliant thermostat that we use. The 4900 is for any contractors on the call. You're probably very familiar with it. We supply them very often because for a very cost-effective price, you can get a thermostat that has the code requirements, meaning the ability to show a fault, economizer fault. That's one of the major code requirements, is being able to show an economizer fault in the space. So with this thermostat, very standard thermostat, you can comply with all those code requirements. You can unoccupied close the economizer damper right from the thermostat. So those are all things that are required by code. There are some other features to it with the built-in Wi-Fi module and some other really nice features that we can provide for a very cost-effective kind of mini building automation system almost. Respicare became obviously something people have been asking a lot about lately. We just did a webinar earlier this week, or excuse me, that was last week. It's all kind of blending together at this point. Last week, that is recorded, that if you go to that website that Ryan mentioned, you could download and watch. We had the owner of Respicare on giving the presentation. So if you want to learn more about this, it's something that, again, has become a lot of people asking about lately. So I would suggest finding that presentation. And if you weren't on that call last week, listening to that, because this is a great product to pair with our small commercial products here. Rooftop screening, something else that comes up quite often. If you've come across this, we do provide rooftop screening and can certainly work with you to provide that based on what the requirement is. Custom colors and designs, but something that we do work with as well. Replacement coils, so be it condenser coils or whatever it might be, we can provide those either through parts, or we have some other vendors that can provide the replacement, even condenser coils that we can provide beyond the OEM options. So let us know if those opportunities come up. So Addison makes what we call a DOAS, dedicated outdoor air system. So it's a packaged rooftop, but it's designed for 100% outside air. A standard rooftop generically is usually sized at approximately 400 CFM per ton, right? So a 10-ton rooftop is moving plus or minus 4,000 CFM. Well, sometimes that accounts for maybe 20, 25% outside air. A lot of times, though, there's a requirement to bring in more outside air than that. And standard rooftops off the shelf are not designed for that increased outside air. So again, that same 10-ton unit might only do 2,000 CFM. You might do 2,000 or 2,500 CFM. That might be how much cooling you need in order to deliver, in order to do a true makeup air unit. So we work with Addison directly on providing a product for that. It provides a lot greater cooling per CFM, more variability with compressors, unloading compressors, modulating gas heats, and different things like that. So this is a product that we work with for DOAS situations. Another more custom situation that we come across is become very popular lately would be specific grow facilities, let's say. So we talked about Humidi-Mizer, and Humidi-Mizer is a great solution for comfort dehumidification control. It is not a dehumidification system for grow facilities. Grow facilities need a lot tighter control than on-off compressors. These are fully modulating compressors with full condensing. So I've got 6-row condenser coil, 6-row reheat coils on here. I can do full condensing with this. And you need that. You need the variability in a grow facility. You need the ability to dehumidify from the day that a plant is brought into the room, where it's off-gassing not at all, to the last couple of days where it's off-gassing a lot, and everything in between. So this is who we work with. We just gave a presentation on this last week as well, which I'm assuming was recorded as well, that you could go back and listen to if you have specific grow facility questions or applications. This would be the product that we would suggest looking at. It's either it's available both in a packaged product that you see in the top, and even a split product that's designed to be inside, either water cooled or condenserless.
Yes.
So those are two different products for these grow rooms.
Yes, we did record that one, and it is on our website also.
Okay, perfect. So if you have more questions on that, please reach out to us and let us know. LSIS is a VFD manufacturer that we work with. We are working with them for new applications, as well as the possibility of replacing existing rooftop VFDs. So we talked about SAV on our small tonnage rooftops that have factory mounted VFDs. This would be an opportunity to replace those drives if something were to happen and it needed to be replaced. This would be a more cost-effective option to provide a VFD that would do the same thing and has instructions. Either way, even if you buy a replacement ABB drive, it's not going to come programmed. This would be an opportunity to provide a more cost-effective option to replace that drive if need be, if it did not fall under warranty, for example. If it was a non-warranty replacement, this would be a more cost-effective option to replace that VFD, as well as VFDs in general. They are all stocked. The U.S. stock is in Franklin Park, Illinois, and the U.S. headquarters is here in Vernon Hills. All the training is done out of Vernon Hills. If you send a tech to that training class, the VFD would then get a 4-year warranty. Out of the box, normally it gets 2, but if you go to this training for a couple of days for free, there's no charge, you go to this free training in Vernon Hills, that same drive gets a 4-year warranty. So it is a very cost-effective option, even against some of the other larger competitors, be it for just normal HVAC applications. This is a very competitive drive that we've had a lot of luck with. We've had the line for a little bit more than a year now and been very successful with. So a lot of different options for that. So that's all I got. If there's any other questions, hopefully I was okay on time, about 40 minutes.
There's been a few. I'm trying to find it now, but Shane asks, what about factory installed smoke detectors as options on some of these rooftop units?
Yes, that is of course an option. We also stock locally sensors that can be installed, sensors and different tubes of lengths, a couple different lengths of sampling tubes. So we can certainly order it, but then again, I have to order it from the factory and it's going to take a couple weeks to get. Or you could pick something out of stock and pick up a smoke detector and mount it in the field. The field supplied is a much more cost-effective option than factory mounting, just from a cost from TEC standpoint. But that is certainly factory installed return air and or supply air is a standard option that we could provide from the factory. Yes.
And I'll also point out that some municipal codes are following IMC and some are following NFPA. And one of those requires it in the supply duct and one requires it in the return duct. So by doing it in the field, you can accommodate either one of those scenarios depending on what your municipality needs you to do. Whereas if you get a factory installed, you're going to get it where you get it, which is not going to be in the.
And the other thing I would bring up on smoke detectors is just be very careful what the requirement is. If it's supposed to tie to a specialized fire panel, you're better off having the fire protection group provide that. The smoke detectors that we are going to supply, be it factory installed or loose, the loose ones that we sell are by system sensor, the 4120 that we can send you details on, but they're mainly designed to just shut the unit down when it senses the smoke. If there's a special requirement to alert some specialized fire protection panel, I would have the fire protection guy provide them. So just check what the requirement is for those smoke detectors.
All right, if anybody has more questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll hang out for another couple minutes and see. There's a bunch of ones that I already answered. I'll give you those later on, Nate, so you can see which ones I did answer because they were kind of obscure. If anybody else has other ones they want us to look at, send them in now. Kyle did point out earlier that when we were talking about the utility rebates, that was specific to ComEd. There are some towns in Illinois, in Chicagoland area, that don't have ComEd, such as Naperville. So obviously those places don't qualify. And if you're in Northwest Indiana or if you're in Wisconsin and you're listening in on this, there are utility rebates in your area. They would just be different than the ComEd. We highlighted the ComEd one, so that small business one is just so freaking huge. It's very exciting. But everywhere has some.
And if anybody in Wisconsin is listening, we specifically mentioned the Carrier product. All of these options are available in our day and night and Heil product as well that we would be selling in Wisconsin. There might be a different name instead of EcoBlue. It might be called something else as a marketing name, but the setup, the available options are the same, be it Carrier, Bryant, Heil, day and night.
Let's see. Anwar says, when smoke alarms clear, the unit starts automatically, or does it need to be manually reset?
Well, I would think, I'm just thinking out loud here because that's a question I haven't been asked. But if the unit is shut down, something is going to have to re-enable it.
Correct. All the ones that I've done.
Something's going to have to turn it back on because it's going to be off, so it's not going to sense anything.
Correct. All the ones I've done in the past, you either have to manually reset it or you have to cycle power to it, one or the other, which is basically doing the same thing. And most life safety things are like that. They don't want them to automatically reset, not knowing if the life safety problem has gone away or not. Matt comments, Humidi-Mizer is only available with 3-phase power on 3 to 5 ton rooftops. Is that correct, Nate?
Yes, it is. That is correct.
Some folks have asked about getting copies of the webinar afterwards. Yeah, I'm recording this now, and that recording will be on our website as well, or I can even email it to you. So if you got a coworker that needs to see it or wants to see it, they can definitely do that. It takes about 3 hours for me to get it posted on the website, but it'll be up there. John asks, is there any other webinars coming up on rooftops? Yes, specifically we have a 3-hour webinar coming up. It's divided in between 2 days, an hour and a half tomorrow and an hour and a half the next day, on how to set up and install these vane axial rooftops. So Doug Bear, who runs our tech support group, is going to run that webinar the next 2 days. It's the same class that he normally would do as a classroom class, except for we're obviously skipping the physical show and tell part. But other than that, it would be the same class that we would normally do with those technicians and service managers. We've had a lot of questions about that variable compressor unit, and I will follow up with you guys on that because that is so new that I would hate to put Nate on the spot and make us answer questions that on units that don't quite exist yet. That's why it's kind of a teaser. But some of them are very detailed questions about discharge direction and whether it'll have low ambient cooling and things of that nature. So we'll look those answers up and we'll get them to everybody because I don't want to wing it and do it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we just know that it's coming later this year. Wanted everybody, while we had this opportunity in this setting, to let everyone know to be on the lookout for it. But I mean, I haven't even seen advanced product data on it. But I would expect we'd have something here very shortly with specific information that you could follow up with your TMs as well. Probably early this spring would be my guess.
Yep, and then obviously once we have that detailed info, then we'll do a webinar specifically on that new product. And then once it's
we'll do a formal release,
formal, classroom hands-on type training stuff too, like we do on any new thing. So we'll do all that stuff, obviously.
Yeah, because I mean, it's going to be fully variable compressor. So I mean, it's it's an inverter compressor that's on there. So
yeah, and it's not an inverter things. I mean, we've had inverters residentially for 9 years now. We've had variable speed compressors on large commercial stuff for a long time. It's just, how it goes. The rooftop guys kind of get things as the chiller guys push technology down and the little residential guys push it up. We finally get cool shit in the rooftops, and now it's our time to get variable speed compressors finally. There had been some questions about Respicare Oxy 4s in the rooftop units. Normally what we recommend is we use the Respicare PCO device, because usually rooftops have, I'm going to say nicely, low-end filtration systems. And the Oxy 4 has small airflow passageways, whereas the PCO device has larger passageways. So typically we use the PCO device. And
that'd be the air sterilizer?
Yep, Air Sterilizer Pro is what they marketed it as. Yep. And then in either case, the Oxy 4s or the Air Sterilizer Pro from Respicare for air purification on rooftops, the 16-inch size can go up to about 3,800.
3,500 CFM.
Yeah, so like a 10-ton unit and under. And then if you have bigger units, you can actually, with some of the models, you can actually piggyback the power together. For those that are super interested, we did a webinar in detail last Thursday on those particular devices for commercial rooftops and applications. So that'd be a good one to watch if you have an hour. The guy from Respicare actually helped us with it, and he answered a million crazy questions. So that'd be a good one to go back and watch the recording of also. All right, last call for questions, anyone? Oh, Nate, your wife dialed in. She has a couple questions.
Sure she does.
Yeah, I'll be home soon. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and end the webinar.
She's distracting the kids outside, so they're quiet, actually.
Yeah, right. That's the new world we're all living in. All right, if you guys have other questions for Nate or I or anybody, just let us know. Well, one more question, just one more. Jay asks, what are you wearing? I don't know if he's talking to you or me, so I'll let you answer.
Khakis.
The polo. That's right, Jake from State Farm. All right, guys. Let you guys all go. Otherwise, we'll keep acting like jerks the whole time. All right. Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.